There is a lot going on in Washington right now, and we have more on the fiery hearing for Donald Trump's acting attorney general, taking questions from Democrats in Congress for the first time. And Congresswoman Karen Bass was one of them. She serves on the Judiciary Committee, and she was all over the hearing. Thank you for being here. You questioned Whitaker on his role regarding ethics complaints that were filed for a conservative group. Let's look at that.
Sure.
We did file ethics complaints against members of both parties.
You filed ethics complaints against Republicans. Can you tell me which Republicans you filed ethics complaints against?
All of, again, I'm here for an oversight hearing. And
yes, you are. And so my questions are leading to that. So can you answer that?
Fact filed all of its complaints on its website, and I would refer you to that.
I don't have time to look into the website. I'm asking you a question now. You were the executive director.
That was one of the tense moments. The Congresswoman, as I mentioned, is here, along with Neil Katyal as well. What were you driving at in that exchange?
So what my concern was, he's the executive director of this organization right before he joined the DOJ, and he had a long list of Democrats that he had investigated, including one of the members of the Judiciary Committee, Representative Hank Johnson. And so how could he be objective in investigating Democrats? I don't believe they investigated any Republicans. Otherwise, he would have been able to have named some. He goes into the Justice Department, and so did he initiate investigations against these same Democrats while he's in the Justice Department? I think the overall thing with him is that we don't really view him as a legitimate person to take that role. We viewed him as essentially the overseer of Jeff Sessions as opposed to being his chief of staff. He was a hack who was working on behalf of the president, watching over Jeff Sessions. And when Jeff Sessions leaves, he takes the position. Like one of my other colleagues pointed out, what were his qualifications to even be in that job in the first place?
And that's a theme that's come up from people, even people who have a lot of deference to the idea that the president can pick who he wants for a range of posts. Let me play for you another point that you and your colleagues were pressing, which was whether he was hiding conversations with Donald Trump about these open probes in New York, which are back in the news in a big way tonight. Take a look.
Right. I want to know whether you talked to President Trump at all about the Southern District of New York's case involving Michael Cohen.
Congresswoman, as I've mentioned several times today, I am not going to discuss my private conversations with the President of the United States.
What are we to take from that in your view?
Well, his overall strategy throughout the whole hearing was to run out the clock, which is why he had to preface every answer with a long explanation. He couldn't answer yes or no. So to me, that was the same thing. He was avoiding answering anything, which is pretty much the way he handled himself throughout the whole hearing. He was incredibly arrogant and disrespectful, especially to the chair of the committee.
I noticed that too, and look, I worked as an aide in the Senate, and there's plenty of brawling that goes on. Right. Even by that standard, I have to tell you, just my observation was he was remarkably rude. He was at times just a jerk to the people asking fairly straightforward questions. I suppose we should note that rather than just ignore it, although it sounds itself a little mean to observe. Stay with me. I want to bring in Neil Katyal, who's served at high levels in the Justice Department, and play for you another exchange about pardons that's especially relevant given what Mueller folks just told a court about Manafort. Take a look.
Have there been any discussions at the department about pardons?
Congressman, as I've been an acting attorney general, I have not been involved in any discussions of any pardons.
Did you ever direct the creation of, see, or become aware of the existence of any documents relating to pardons of any individual?
I am aware of documents relating to pardons of individuals, yes.
One of those moments where a good question forces him under oath to actually figure out if he is. This comes as we're learning a story that any other night might be the top story in the country. The president's former campaign chair, who was busted for breaking his plea agreement, is now in court facing allegations from Mueller that he was lying to them in the hopes of a recent attempt at a pardon.
Exactly. So yesterday night we learned about this. The sealed transcript was released in redacted form, and this is of Paul Manafort, who's the campaign manager for Trump, his plea deal and whether or not he complied with it or not. And in there, at page 84, there's a remarkable thing. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. A Mueller prosecutor is saying one of the reasons Manafort may have lied was in order to help his bid for a pardon with President Trump. Now, up until this point, there's been a lot of speculation that the president and his lawyers have been dangling pardons in exchange for more favorable witness testimony and the like. John Dowd, his attorney, was accused of that with Michael Flynn and with Paul Manafort a year and a half ago. But here now we actually have a Mueller prosecutor saying, look, this might have happened in some way, shape, or form. Now, it's redacted. We don't know everything. But boy, that is a big, big deal.
You put it so clearly. Congresswoman, I'm over on time, but want to give you the benefit of responding to that there is a wide, broad pardon power, but if it were being offered in exchange for a potential federal crime, according to Mueller's folks, would that, in your view, be an abuse of power?
Absolutely. And I don't have any doubt that that's exactly what happened. Now, I don't have the proof, but do I have doubt? I don't.
Congressman Bass, who was all over the hearing there, thank you for sharing with us your views.